everyone, happy holidays and welcome back to my channel. I'm Dana and today I'm going to be showing you how to paint this beautiful holiday tree in this winter wonderland of magic. So if you are looking for a last minute gift for somebody who is an art lover, or you just need something festive to deck your halls with, then this is the painting for you. So let's get painting. Also, we're almost at 1,000 subscribers, which is not a huge number maybe, but for me, it is a huge milestone for our channel. So we're less than 50 people away from 1,000. So thank you guys all for subscribing and watching and telling your friends about the channel. Please keep doing that. And when we do get to 1,000, I'm gonna do like a giveaway or something really cool and special. And so keep an eye out for that. All right, now let's paint. Before you get started, you will need your supplies. So you will need something to paint on, like a canvas or whatever material you want to paint on. You will need your paint, and I will list all the colors down in the description below, as always. Something to mix your paint on, like a board, or I'm using a paint tray. You will need a cup of water or a jar of water to rinse out your brushes. You will need some brushes. I just have a variety of cheap brushes, and just some paper towels to wipe your brushes on. To start this painting, we're just gonna paint the background for the sky area, so the top 3/4 blue, a very dark blue. So we're just gonna start with a bigger chipped brush. And start with blue. Mix a little bit of black. And I'm also going to add a little bit of this magenta red color because I like my blue sky to be just a touch on the purple side. And some water to thin this out. I'm going to go ahead and paint the whole top 3/4 of our canvas, this nice dark blue. Alright, so that's all we're going to do for the sky at this point. And now to add kind of a galaxy effect, we're going to use a paper towel method where we crunch up a paper towel. We're going to dip it in different colors like purple and maybe a lighter blue, possibly some pink, and we're going to kind of sponge or dab it on to create a galaxy effect. Now I've done this before, so if you've seen my Hogwarts castle video, it's the same technique I used for that sky. So we'll go over it briefly again, but I'll just show you basically how I do it. So again, you crumple up a paper towel, and I'll start with just a medium-sized brush just to mix the colors. And we can keep using the same blue color that we used for the sky. I'm just going to add a little white to this, make it a little bit lighter. And this will be our first color for the galaxy. We're just going to take our paper towel, crumpled up, dab it into that paint. And it doesn't matter if your sky is wet or dry at this point. We're just going to take a little bit of that and we're going to start dabbing it on. Just kind of randomly. You could even do just a little bit of plain white if you want some areas of even brighter. We're also going to do this with some other colors, so again, using my medium-sized brush, I'm going to add some magenta and blue, mix those together and make a purple. And this brush had a little bit of that lighter blue on it, so a little white mixed in there too. You can make any color purple you like. Again, taking my paper towel, and you can just rotate it around to use a different spot. And same technique. You can use the magenta just by itself. Maybe you want some pink in your sky. And if your blue and purple is still wet, that pink will very likely mix in and just make different shades of purple as well. And just go ahead and keep on adding these colors to your sky until you're happy with the result. You can add other colors too. You could put green in here if you want. You could put more of an aqua color blue if you want. It's totally up to you. So at this point, my sky looks like this. So it's got a variety of like blue, a little bit of purple, and like little bits of pink in there. And it doesn't quite look like a galaxy yet. We're gonna add stars next, and that will really bring it all together. And most of the sky is gonna be covered up by our Christmas tree and our other trees, so don't worry too much about it. Okay, so I'm gonna take a medium to larger size brush. I don't want to brush any bigger than this because I don't want the splatter to go everywhere. But any smaller, it might be hard to get enough splatter, but we're gonna do a splattering with our brush. So we want a medium-sized brush. We're gonna take some white and add some water to it. You can add the water just from your jar, or if you want it to be a little bit more white, you can take a spray bottle and spray it, so that it's nice and watery. The more watery, the better. And you're gonna take that, and with your fingers, you're gonna grab the bristles, pull them back, and like flick the bristles. And that is going to spray these little splatters all over. And the more watery your paint is, the better it will work. This might get your fingers a little dirty. And you can also add individual stars if you like. You could use a really small brush or the back end of a small brush and just dip that in your white paint. And just dot individual stars, like larger ones, wherever you would like. These could also be snowflakes, because later we'll repeat this stuff again on top of the tree to add snowflakes. That works as both. Okay. So that's it for the sky. You don't really have to wait for the sky to dry before you do the snow on the bottom, because we actually want a little bit of the blue to mix into the white for the snow, and that'll give it a more realistic snowy effect. You can use either your big chip brush that you used for the sky, again, if you want it to go faster, or you could use like a larger medium size brush like this one. And I'm just gonna go ahead, I just lightly washed off my brush. And I'm gonna start with just grabbing plain old white and just start painting in the bottom. And if it doesn't start picking up some of that blue from your sky, then you can go ahead and add a little bit of blue to this if you want. Looks like my blue is pretty dry. My blue is pretty dry, so what I'll probably want to do is once I get enough white paint on here, I'll just go ahead and get a little tiny bit of blue in my brush and just start streaking that in on purpose. And that will make the snow look more interesting and not just plain white. It'll create like almost like shadows in your snow. And I like my horizon to be uneven. I don't want it to be perfectly straight, so it looks like little hills of snow. And the reason you don't want to just mix a light blue and just paint the whole thing a light blue is because you really want those streaks of lighter and darker variations, from almost pure white to almost like light blue. And that's my snow. So we're going to add our pine trees next. And like I said, we're gonna put a row of smaller ones in the background so they look like they're farther away, and then they'll get bigger as we like come up to the sides, and then the main big holiday tree in the center. We're gonna basically use the same technique for all of our trees, but I'm gonna show you a couple different ways to do a pine tree on this little piece of board first as an example. So you wanna arrange the size of your brush to match the size of your tree. So for our example, I'm just gonna use like a smaller medium-sized brush. And you could just do your trees like just plain black for the background silhouette trees, but I like to make a really dark green instead. So I'm gonna use this smaller, like medium-sized brush. And just in my pile of blue, I'm gonna mix yellow, blue, and black. A really dark green. Couple different ways you could do your pine trees. So you can start with like a line for your tree trunk, and then just from that line kind of pull out on either side these like little zigzaggy brush strokes. You don't have to be perfect, they don't have to be even. Trees are very asymmetrical. You just want to make sure it's kind of a triangular shape with these jagged little leafy edges. So that's one way you could do it. Another way is you could just skip the line in the middle altogether and just do those little messy zigzaggies. You just always want to make sure that the top is pointy and narrow, and then the sides come out wider like a triangle shape. And another way, if this is all too complicated, you could just draw yourself a triangle shape. And honestly, you could just leave it like that and it would look just fine, because we're gonna clump these together. But if you want, you could just, over that triangle shape, just take the edge of your brush and kind of zigzag on the edges. There's different ways. There are more than this, plenty more ways to do a pine tree, but these are just 3 examples of a simple, quick way to do little pine trees. Now these are bigger than the ones we'll put in the background, but we'll get to some of these size. I want to make my smallest ones in the back middle part of my horizon, and they're gonna kind of get bigger as they come out to the sides, creating like depth. So like these are farthest away and they get bigger as they come closer to us. So for my smallest ones, I'm gonna use a really small little brush here and use that same color we just mixed up for our example. Starting in the back middle, and we're only gonna make these like 1 inch high. And just make some a little taller, some a little shorter, and we're just gonna fill up the whole horizon with these little triangle shapes. They can overlap each other. Some can be leaning if you want, but all the trees should look a little different, but they really don't have to be that detailed, because they're just going to be in the background. And then as I go farther out towards my edges, these trees will gradually start to get a little taller. As my trees start to get a little bigger towards the edges, I'm going to move up to a slightly bigger brush, going for this smaller medium-sized brush that I used for the demo. And same technique, this time we're just making these trees a bit bigger. And the bigger the trees are, the more attention I'll pay to making sure that I have a little bit of that branchy effect. And I might even start to overlap the snow a little to show that these are a little closer. And when I get all the way to the edges, I'm gonna make the last two on either edge even bigger, kind of like Bob Ross style, where it's gonna kind of go all the way the length and the height. It might cover up some of these trees on the side. I'm gonna switch up to a bigger brush. We'll go back to this size brush, this bigger brush. Same color. If you're running out, you can mix up a little bit more. With these ones, we're gonna go all the way from the top to the bottom. And you only have to do half the tree because you're only seeing like one side of it. So I'm just gonna brush out from this side, using like as if the side of my canvas here was the trunk. I'm just gonna brush out from the side. Getting whiter as we go down. All the way down to the bottom. So this is a foreground tree. We're only seeing the one side of it. And these are gonna get snow on the branches, which will help pull them from the background and define them in a little bit. So don't worry if a little bit of your branches get kind of lost there. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side, acting as if the edge of our canvas is our tree trunk and just pulling these out from the side. Remember to get wider and bigger as you go down towards the bottom. Okay, so that's my trees along the back and on the sides. Now we're gonna make our center Christmas holiday tree right in the middle using the exact same technique. We want this one to be nice and big. We're gonna go mostly all the way up and not quite down to the bottom, so probably from about here to here, but you can decide how big or small you want yours to be. If you don't want to do a tree, you could do anything else in the center. You can make this a snowman or whatever you like. You can do whatever type of holiday tree, whatever color scheme. We're just gonna do a generic pine tree to start. So same color, same brush. I'm gonna add a little bit more yellow and brighten my green up for the middle main tree, just so it stands out from the others a little bit. And with this one, I'm gonna mark where I want the bottom of this to be. And it's gonna be maybe just a little taller than this brush. I also want to put a little star on the top of this tree, so I want to leave some room. And I want this tree to be fairly straight, so I can use my brush. But of course, trees don't have to be perfectly straight. My own Christmas tree that I have is a little crooked. It's a cool tree though, because my sister got it for me. She went all the way to Utah and chopped it down. Well, technically her boyfriend chopped it down, but she picked it out. And it's not a perfect triangle. It's got like some sparse areas in the middle, so your trees don't have to be perfect. This is my general height of my tree, and just like all my other ones, I'm just gonna use that center and pull out from there. I'm gonna make sure you have a nice triangular shape. So the top of your tree should be thin and pointy. It should get wider as you go. And when I get to the bottom here, I'm just going to make this kind of flare out at the bottom. Mine is a little see-through, so I'm going to do one more coat of paint over it. You can also add like darker green and throughout this to add a little bit of texture. So at this point, before we add the snow and the decorations to our trees, we want to let all of this dry. So I'm going to go ahead and let all my trees dry, and we'll come back, we'll flock them with some snow, we'll decorate our main tree, and then we'll just add our final shadows. And then we can also add snow falling over the entire scene. Now that our trees have dried, we're going to go through and we're gonna add a little bit of snow to the trees. And I wanna do the snow in 2 passes. I'm gonna start with the smaller trees in the back, just like we did before. And we're gonna use a really small brush again. And I wanna do the snow with a light blue layer first, kind of like down here. And then we'll go back on top with white to brighten up the highlights on the snow. But doing it in 2 layers makes it a little bit more realistic. So we're gonna go ahead and grab some white and some blue and mix that together. And we're just gonna go back on the tops of these little trees and just brush a little on there. You don't have to worry about too much detail. Just want these to kind of stand out from the background a bit. Just a hint. Maybe just on the tops of these trees. Maybe some of the really small ones back there you don't even have to worry about. And on your bigger trees, you might want to put a little bit more. And of course on these trees here. And on the bigger trees where we see them closer with a little bit more detail, I'm going to pounce this on a little bit more so it looks a little fluffier, like snow. And actually, I'm going to move up to a slightly bigger brush, just like we did when we were making the trees. So go to a slightly bigger brush, so it goes a little faster. So if you didn't think your trees were standing out enough before, now a little pounce of snow on there, and I'll make these stand out even more. And you don't have to do that much snow if you don't want that much. Might do some like in the center too. The snow would be building up mostly just on the outside edges of the branches. But remember, those branches go all the way around the tree, so I'll just put some in there. And remember, the branches go in all different directions, so. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other tree over here. And of course, we'll also do it to our main tree in the center. And this is the tree that is the focus, and this is the one we want to spend the most time on. And of course, with this bluer, darker snow color, we can go underneath our tree and add a bit of shadow as well. And I'm kind of brushing this under the tree. If you think you get too much, you can always take a little bit of white and just smudge that in. We don't really have a specific light source since we didn't put the moon. So we'll just do a very soft shadow just right underneath the tree with no real specific direction. And this just helps make it look like it's sitting on the ground and not just hovering. And we can even go back with some pure white and add a couple highlights into the snow areas where maybe like a little clump of snow here and there. Just add a little more dimension here. Okay, now I'm just going to wipe off my brush and we'll start again with the small trees in the back, and right on top of the blue we'll add just pure white. And actually I'm going to skip the very smallest trees in the back because those ones are so far away we're not going to see that much detail, so they can just stay like that. But when we get to the bigger ones, especially the ones on the side, we'll go back on top of our blue. There's a little bit of pure white. We don't want to put too much on our brush, so maybe this one here. And we'll go pretty sparingly with this. And this will probably just be at the tops too. It's like that white, glistening snow. And just switch brushes when you get to the bigger trees. If you think there are places where it's more shadowy, you can leave the snow as that blue color. But especially like these edges, these branches where they kind of come out here, you might get more of that brighter snow. And then of course, we do the same thing on our main tree here. Okay, and if you just wanted a regular snowy tree in the forest, you could at this point call the painting done. You could sprinkle a few more white dots all over the foreground to make it look like snowflakes if you wanted. But if you want to make this a holiday tree, now is where we're going to have fun with some colors. You could do as many different decorations. You could put bulbs, you could put garland. I'm just going to go for some colorful lights and a little star at the top. And I'm just going to use a mixture of different colors. With our primary colors that we have, with the yellow, magenta, and blue, we can make just about any color that we want. So I'm going to start with an even smaller, this is like kind of a pointy small brush. And I'll show you a little trick to make your lights look like they are glowing. So I'm going to start with, we'll just do like some red. I'll use this magenta color. I'm going to mix a little bit of yellow into it to make it more of a brighter red color. More of like an orangey red color. I'm just going to take a little bit of this on my brush and just put a few dots wherever I want them to be. And then before they get a chance to dry, I'm going to just smudge them a little. My finger. You don't want to smudge it so much that the color completely disappears, so you might have to go over it a couple times. And you don't want to go too crazy with just your first color because we're going to add, well, depending on how many colors you want to add. Okay. So you do that first, and then you don't really even have to wipe off your brush, but you can clean it up a little. And then you're going to take with the same brush, and it might have a little bit of that color left on it, dip it in some white. And you don't want that much on your brush, so just a little bit of white. You wipe off the excess, and then just in the middle of each of those, you're going to put a little bit of white. That should be tinted. So in this case, it's almost like a light pink. You just put that in the center, and that makes it look like it's glowing, like that's the little light bulb. And so you could do that for any color you want. I'll do some yellow lights next. So again, I'll take my yellow, just plain old yellow. You can smudge the yellow just a little bit. I'm also going to do the little star at the top with the yellow. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to make a little halo kind of glow at first. So. If your yellow is looking a little on the green side when you rub it in because of the blue background, you can just add a little bit of white to your yellow. And that will help make it look a little bit brighter. So I'm just gonna smudge in a nice big circle at the top of the tree here. And you see, I just do a little at a time because I don't want it to dry before I can smudge it to get that nice fuzzy edge that makes it look like a glow. And you can even add some more of these like little, I like to do these little lines like that to make it more like a little glow. And then just like the other lights, the red light will go back in the middle with a little bit of white. And we'll repeat this process for however many colors you want to do. Oh, for the star though, you're going to use your white, and you can make it more of a light yellow if you want. But I'm going to go ahead and put our star. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a little dot, and I'm just going to do kind of like a cross shape with an X through it for my star. Like that. Okay, I'm going to do some blue lights next. You could do purple lights, pink lights, whatever colors you want. Remember, just put the color down, smudge it a little bit, and then go back and put a white dot in the middle of it. And finally, I'll do some green lights. I'll make my green much, much brighter this time because I don't want it to blend into the tree. It'll be more of a yellowy green. And that's my tree. And of course, you can just leave it just like that if you want. But if you want to add a few more snowflakes to your background, you can just clean off your brush, grab a little bit of white, and in amongst all the other little, the ones that we did earlier for the stars that kind of could look like snowflakes, you can just start adding little white snowflakes, kind of dot all over. Maybe these ones can be a little bit bigger, more prominent, so they look more like snowflakes. You could do the splatter method again too if you wanted, but I'm just gonna use dots. You could also draw like little snowflake shapes if you want like a pretty little close-up of a snowflake floating. You could easily do that, but yeah. The other thing that might be kind of pretty is to put a little yellow highlight maybe on some of your snowflakes. So you could go back with your light yellow that you used from the star. And you could have done this when you did the star too. And then make some of these little snowflakes around the star a light yellow. Instead of just plain white. It also kind of could look like little magical sparkles around your tree, which could be pretty too. But that is it. That is our magical winter wonderland holiday tree in the forest. As always, Bella and I would like to thank you for watching the video. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell all of your friends and family about it so they can do so as well. And if you have any suggestions for what we should paint next, as always, leave them down in the comments below. And if you would like to support the channel, I am on Patreon, so you can check that out in the links below. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a wonderful, happy holiday, however you're celebrating. Be safe, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye!